A few weeks ago, we did an episode, number 420, with Coach Lindsay Benitez, and we talked about limiting beliefs. And we touched on the thinking traps, the thoughts that can distract us and prevent us from getting ahead. So today, I wanted to dig deeper on thinking traps, including the four that I have struggled with, to see if we can help you move past them as well. Hi, I'm Dinah Burnell. I'm a career strategist helping Latina professionals reach their big goals. And I struggled with the same thinking traps. And they are easy to fall into, but they're harder to climb out of. They can derail our decision making, our confidence at work, and our overall career progress. So I'm going to talk about the ones that used to keep me up at night and give you some tips that can help you move forward. And if there are other topics you want to hear, don't forget to leave us a comment, leave us a review, follow on Apple, and subscribe on YouTube. Let us know what you think. Okay, let's jump in. Okay, so how do you know you're in a thinking trap, right? Well, first of all, you keep obsessing over the same thing. You spend a lot of time thinking and preparing instead of taking action. Maybe you procrastinate when it comes to a new proposal or going after a promotion or even speaking up in a meeting because you fear it won't go well, you'll lose your job and your home, and you will end up homeless. I mean, you go deep, right? These are the thinking traps in our head that can prevent us from taking the steps we need to learn and grow at work. Now, thinking traps at a minimum can have a negative impact on our self esteem, our confidence, and our ability to move forward. Our work productivity can suffer, which leads to more thinking traps, and you get stuck in this vicious cycle. Now, we can also let them take over, and then we get negative. And that cycle of negativity, I've seen that happen with people, and they focus on the bad things and they start to get bitter. And trust me, when you're bitter at work, other people can tell. And because you're afraid to take a risk, you might miss out on opportunities or the growth that happens from going out for new jobs, bigger promotions, and different clients. So, I'm going to outline four common thinking traps, at least the ones that I have found myself grappling with, and the ones that can really impact us at work, and see how we can move past them. Okay. Okay. So, the first one I want to tackle is catastrophe. This isn't just, oh, my idea is no good. This is, my idea is so bad, it's going to backfire, and I'm going to lose my job, and I'm going to get fired. Right. These are the ones that can really stress us out. It can have an impact on our physical and our mental health. It has a real ripple effect because we are obsessing about the worst possible outcome. And sometimes we are so concerned, then we do nothing, right? We get frozen. Now, the second thinking trap that I think a lot of us can relate to is mind reading, also known as predicting the future, right? We assume we know what the other people are going to say. And of course, we're assuming that it's going to be negative. So that then keeps us up at night as well. But in fact, we do not know exactly what the other people are going to say or what they're going to do until we get there. Now, it's okay to prepare. Don't get me wrong. I do want you to prepare for meetings and interviews. But this is when we start to assume how the other person is going to respond, usually negative, and that it's not going to turn out well. And sometimes we get stuck and we don't move forward. Okay, the third thinking trap I want to touch on is disqualifying the positive. This is one of my favorites, and this is for all my salespeople out there that even if I made goal this quarter, it's never enough. Maybe I met goal, but I didn't exceed it, or I didn't exceed it by as much as I did last year. And for anyone who has a misstep at the office, well, my goodness, one mistake can derail us, and we can focus on that one mistake and not think about all the great work that we did for the other 11 months out of the year. Now, I see that a lot with my clients. I see that a lot with Latinas, that we have such high expectations for ourselves. We really ride ourselves hard. And I get it. It's good to have big goals. But let's face it, when you're going to have a long career, there are bound to be some bad days. There are going to be some deals that go wrong, and there might be a promotion that you don't get. But we can't let the one mishap overshadow the entire year of success or 5 years. just because you had one bad client meeting or one interview that you didn't get. And by the way, pro tip here, this is why it's important to have your brag folder. Okay. You might have heard me talk about this in other episodes. In your email inbox, make sure to have your brag folder. Okay. Anytime you get compliments, you get recognized for your great work, save those things. And even if you have a conversation with someone, type it up and email it to yourself. And you can use that when you need to for a boost, right? You can use it at performance time. And if you are looking for a job, now you can start building all those great accomplishments for those interviews. Okay, back to our thinking traps. Number 4, all or nothing thinking. This is what's the point mentality, right? This one really prevents us from learning, taking any risks, or going after anything new. We say to ourselves, well, I'm never going to get that job, so I'm not even going to try. Or I don't have a chance with that client, so I'm not even going to bother. And we have to remind ourselves that there might be success in the in between, in the gray space. We can learn there. This is when we get stuck in mediocrity, and no one wants a career in mediocrity. We have to remind ourselves that there is something to be said for learning, for going for it, even if you're not sure. Think of what you will learn during that interview process, or think about the feedback you might get if you are pitching a bigger proposal that you wouldn't have otherwise done. Okay, so let's look at some strategies to break through these thinking traps. First is to become aware, and you're already here, so that's part of it. Just try to see when you are falling into a thinking trap at work. Now, if you are really lucky, you can stop yourself in the moment. What does it feel like? What does it look like? Usually, procrastination is a huge sign. If you're stressing, try and unpack, why are you stressing? What is it at play that you keep thinking about over and over? What are you avoiding, or who are you avoiding? That's also key. And try and figure out, okay, which one of the thinking traps is at play here? Now, it can be hard to stop ourselves in the moment. It takes practice, and we're going to talk about that too. But even if you just stop yourself maybe once a day, maybe at the end of the day or during lunch, at some moment to think through, where have I spent so much time beating myself over something? Now, the second step is to challenge and reframe that thought. Okay? Challenge the thought. And here's a great way to do it. Ask yourself, what is the evidence for or against that thought? And then how can you replace it with a more balanced, constructive thought? So if we are in mind reading and we say to ourselves, oh, I'm going to go to this meeting and I know what this guy is going to say. Okay, first of all, you don't have evidence of what he's going to say. We don't know, but you can live in the yes and. I am afraid about this meeting. I am nervous about this meeting, and I can practice to feel more prepared and increase my likelihood of success. Or I am a little nervous about this client meeting, so I'm going to talk to some of my coworkers and see what worked for them last time. And yes, I made a mistake on this proposal. And the one that I did the month before it and the one that I'm going to do next month is really solid. So I fixed it and I learned from it. And this is one of the things that I see a lot in the career section, right? And this is where we get held back with our careers. I won't get the job, so I don't go after it. I am not ready for that promotion, so they don't go after it. So see if you can reframe it, okay? Instead of saying, I'm not going to go for that job and just leaving it at that, say, I might not get this job, which is always true, right? I might not get this job, and it will be helpful to go through this interview process to learn about the company, to learn more about what they're looking for, so I am ready next time. Or maybe you interview for the job and you might get it, or you don't get that job, but they have another job. So again, reframing the outcome in a positive way. The third step is to try and embrace and cultivate this growth mindset. Now, I know we see lots of articles about growth mindset and they pop up on LinkedIn all the time. But how do you really know where to start? How can you stop yourself? How can you acknowledge that, okay, I'm doing really well here, and there are some other areas in which I'd like to grow? And that's okay. So, really start to look at your career as many, many pieces of the puzzle. What have you learned so far? Look at all your many accomplishments. See, This is where we don't want to disqualify the positive. Let's say you're a great salesperson. Maybe you could always benefit from some presentation skills or some negotiating. Now, this is where you hear the phrase progress over perfection, because we are constantly evolving. And if you're in the first 5 or 10 years of your career, you do have a lot to learn about your industry, about how to move up the corporate ladder. And even if you have been in the workforce for 20 years or more, there's always something evolving. So, no matter how many years you've been in the workforce, being open to learning and not throwing out all the great accomplishments is a great step. Okay, and our fourth strategy is overall mindfulness. You hear me say it a lot. Go for a walk, journal, slow down. Getting grounded throughout the day, throughout your life, can help you become more aware of these thoughts so you can manage them as they're happening. Now, your feelings and concerns are valid. It's okay to have these thoughts. It's just we don't want them to paralyze us. Remember the phrase paralysis analysis? We want you to move past them and use them to meet your goals. So start somewhere. And I know it's hard to think about this during the day because we're all so busy, but maybe if during lunch or maybe if one day this week you can think through some of these thoughts. Or maybe you have a big performance review coming up or a second round interview. Try and think through where these thinking traps are occurring. And it will take time to get past them. Just like the emotion of fear, they are there for a reason so we don't get work, so we prepare, so we're not sloppy. But we want to think things through, but not get stuck. And we don't want to get into the spiral of negative thinking that these traps can bring. So, to recap, start to become aware of these thoughts, the ones that get in your way, that you spiral in, right? And you don't take action. If you're procrastinating, that's the first sign. Second, begin to challenge those thoughts, reframe them into something productive. And don't forget the good question to ask: what is the evidence for or against that thought? Third, embrace the growth mindset no matter what year you are in your career. And fourth, practice some type of mindfulness so that way you can be more aware as these thoughts happen throughout your day. A friend of mine said, you got to name it to tame it. So taking some time to be aware, figuring out what type of thinking trap is keeping you up at night is the first step to tackling them. This is what's worked for me. I hope you will practice this a little bit. Let me know how it goes. I would love to hear your success stories. Leave us a comment in the reviews or message me on LinkedIn. And of course, let us know what else you want to hear. Okay, I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening. For more, visit cornerofficelatinas.com, where we give you the framework, inspiration, and support you need to reach and thrive in the corner office. We have some free downloads on the website, where you can also sign up for our e-news, so we can keep you posted on workshops and events coming up that you will not want to miss. That's cornerofficelatinas.com. See you next week.